I want to introduce our final speaker, Nyla Rodgers, who is a crypto philosopher, as well as having been an actress. And she is going to talk to us about how, obviously, Satoshi is in fact female. Welcome to the stage, Nyla.
Thank you. Or you want to use that?
Which one is better?
Up to you. Yeah, use that. Sure.
Hello. Thank you for staying with me. I know it's been a really long day, and I am so excited to be here. It is so amazing to see all of the AI and blockchain people coming together to really dream of a beautiful new world. And what I'm really excited to talk to you about is how the crypto future is female. And I'm looking around this room, I'm seeing that there is a diverse audience of people. And I want us to really kind of get in a place of imagining, like, what does this new world look like? If we're going to build a new system, how are we building it together, and how are we making sure that it is inclusive from the beginning? And most importantly, how is it bringing us back to our shared humanity? So with that, I'd like you all to kind of settle with me here. So if you're speaking to your neighbor, I would like you to be quiet. And I'd like you all to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Another one in and another one out. Now I'd like you all to close your eyes. When your eyes are closed, please put your hand on your heart. And I want you to connect to your heartbeat. That source of all of our humanity. And as you feel your heartbeat, I want you to take a moment and breathe love in and breathe love out. Breathe love in and breathe love out. And lastly, breathe love in and breathe love out. So, I am here to bring you back to your humanity. And I'm going to tell you a story of how I went from being a person doing community development work across the world to becoming a crypto philosopher. So first of all, the story starts with my birth. I was born to a crazy feminist woman who was part of the White Panthers, who was a member of the Black Panthers in the United States, who was fighting for the Vietnam War. She had been raised by her mother, who was a civil rights movement activist during Martin Luther King's time, who had been raised by her mother, who was an activist during Prohibition. And all of us ladies lived in the same house. And from the time that I was born, I was taught, despite what society told me about being a woman, I could be anything I wanted to be, as well as my life was a life of service, and I had come here to change the world. So my mom was not surprised at 10 when she got a call from my teacher that I had staged a walkout because of the Gulf War, or when I was 15 and I started the National Organization of Women at my high school. And then I went on to get a degree in global studies, and I went even further to get a master's in peace and conflict transformation. So I traveled the world, I went and worked at the United Nations, and what I found when I got to the United Nations was a whole lot of frustration. I found that people were not being listened to, and that you could not change the world if the communities that you were serving were not in the room. And so this was incredibly frustrating for me. And the only way that I decided that I wanted to change this was I decided I wanted to go directly to the people. Now, an opportunity for that did not arise until 2005, when I had to go home because my mother was sick with cancer. And I moved in with her to take care of her, and we dreamed about a day that she would go to Kenya to meet Bernard, an orphan she sponsored there. And so we would talk about this dream because she had never left North America because she was terrified of flying. And so we decided if she could beat cancer, she definitely could beat this fear. And so about 5 months after she was diagnosed, I was holding her hand and I watched her take her last breath. And I felt this need to put the wish into the universe that I could take this trip with or without her. And so about 2 weeks after that, that wish was answered because I got offered a job in Bernard's Village in Kisumu, Kenya, by the United Nations Development Program. So I went to Kenya, and what I found was this: hundreds of people holding memorial in honor of my mother. And I learned that she had not only helped Bernard, she had actually helped the whole entire community. And the way she had done this is she had helped the women. She had started a women's saving bank that had allowed women to take out loans. And so many of these women had HIV/AIDS and they were unable to get access to any medicine. But because they now had profits, they were staying alive, their children were staying in school, and it had completely transformed the community. And so at this event, kind of steeped in my grief, I decided what do you do with your leftover love that you have for someone? Because it's something that will just torture you unless you actually put it to work. And I decided to start Mama Hope in her honor so that I could continue her work and so I could go find those leaders across the world and serve them. So Mama Hope began in 2006, and it started with me just going to communities and sitting down with leaders and asking them, what do they need? And they would tell me, and I would listen, and then I would provide that. Now, I know that doesn't sound like rocket science, but that is not the way international development is normally done. Normally, the way it's done is a bunch of people over here decide what communities need, and then they tell their donors that's what communities need, and then they fund that. And that's how wasted aid happens. So we did this all over the world, and a quote that I love that sums this up is by Lao Tzu. And it says, go to the people, live with them, learn from them, love them. Start with what they know, build with what they have, but with the best leaders. And when the work is done and the task is accomplished, the people will say, we have done this ourselves. I believe that this is actually the key to international development, and so I went on a mission to make that my whole entire purpose. And what we did is we actually started building ecosystems of prosperity. This man is named James, and for me, he is that leader from that quote. When I met him, he was living in one room of a schoolhouse that he was renting. It wasn't even a schoolhouse, it was like a dilapidated home. And then the children were in 2 other rooms where during the day they would go to school, and during that night they would sleep in those rooms. And so I met him, and we partnered up to build St. Timothy's School in Moshi, Tanzania. And now that school is the 5th best school in the region. It has a solar-powered computer lab, it has 5 school buses, it has a permaculture farm, and more importantly, it has all these businesses that fund James' model around it. So this is James and I on the construction site of St. Timothy's. And this is our model in action. So what we do is we fund businesses alongside community projects so that the communities can become sustainable. And last year, James had a $24,000 profit that he was able to invest into 15 more projects. And then he went out and he found entrepreneurs just like him to also give money to. Now, to me, that is the goal. I think too much in the nonprofit space, we're focusing on anti-poverty, when really what we should be focusing on is pro-prosperity. And so now, we have worked in 18 communities in 8 countries across the world. We have built 144 projects, and we have impacted 730,000 people. Now, 730,000 people sounds like a lot of people, and I am very, very proud of that number. But the truth is, we really should have helped millions. And the reason that we haven't is because I'm a female founder. So, at the same time that I started my organization, a couple men colleagues also started their organization. And the problem with my fundraising efforts was that I would constantly be on meetings that were actually dates and the ideas of the people who I was asking for funds from. And I dealt with sexual harassment, and I dealt with so much time wasted, while my male counterparts went on to have very straightforward meetings and now have organizations that are 50 times the size of mine in the amount of fundraising they can do. I point this out because this problem is actually getting in the way of us moving forward. There are brilliant women founders who get stuck in this all the time. Right now, only 2% of venture capital is going to female-founded companies. That is crazy. And what's really exciting about the blockchain is that we can make a difference and decide to build a different system. So, in this lack of being able to find this capital, I learned about cryptocurrencies. And I launched a campaign called Crypto for a Cause. And very quickly, I earned about $60,000 in Bitcoin. And I took that money and I turned it into a home for 100 children in Tanzania. And I started getting invited to speak at these crypto conferences as a person who was doing crypto for social good. What I noticed about these conferences is I was one of the only women, but also that not many people were talking about humanitarian efforts. But what I really noticed when I started to dig in was that the blockchain is female. If you read Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, the things that stood out to me was that it's collaborative, it's inclusive, it's values-driven, and it's community-centered. These are inherently female ways or feminine ways to move value across the world. So, I got invited to a conference to speak in Puerto Rico. And I told my husband, I want to make a statement. I'm going to make a shirt that says Satoshi is a woman. And I'm going to be up on stage with all men, and everyone will know where I stand. And he was like, Nyla, I think that's a little aggressive. Why don't you make a shirt that says Satoshi is a female? And I was like, Satoshi is female. That's what it is. That's what we're going to do. So I made a shirt for myself, and then I made a shirt for 50 other people. And I went to Women of Crypto Gathering, and I handed them out to all these incredible women in blockchain that were there. And within hours, we had taken over the conference with our rally cry of Satoshi being female. I not only handed it out to the women, I handed it out to men who represented diversity, who were people who were inclusive in the space, and who could really tell a different story. So what happened is after I got off stage, one of the organizers came to me and was like, you have to give me that shirt because I'm going to go up and I'm talking to everyone after this. And in front of thousands of people, he stood there and he pointed at the shirt and said, this is what the blockchain is about. This is our time to change everything. And that to me was amazing. But even the next part was the thing that shocked me the most. Because when he got off stage, he whispered in my ear, someday I'll introduce you to Satoshi. Guess what? One of them is female. And so I had my rally cry. I had my movement. But the thing that really excited me was the next moment. Because a guy came up to me and he said, you know the thing that's very special about this movement is that it's an answer to me too. Because I'm a man in tech, and I've been watching my female friends be undervalued for years. And I've wanted to jump in, and I've wanted to say, I'm on your side, but I haven't had a time or space to do it. And this shirt allows me to do it without having to say anything at all. And so in that moment, what I realized is this shirt can not only be a movement, it could also define the culture of crypto feminism and blockchain moving forward. So I came home, I bought all the websites, I got the trademarks, I decided to go for it. And people all over the world started buying shirts, and they started sending me pictures about why they believe Satoshi is female, women and men. And we made this video. Wondering if the people in the back can play it for me. Wait 1 second. It's playing on this screen. Do I just need to click it? Thank you for your patience. So I made this video, and what I wanted to capture in this video is what does it feel like if Satoshi is female? If the future is being created by men and women alike, if it's inclusive, if it's diverse, and if it is our chance to move away from the patriarchy. And so when I made this video, I went out and I asked different people from the blockchain sector in New York to dance for me and show me how it feels when Satoshi is female. So as soon as they get this going, you will see it. You can get excited. What? Isn't it a good tune? Yeah. I'm going to take a sip of water.
Welcome to the future, baby.
Thank you very much. So that was very fun. We just put the word out there, and 15 people show up at a house at a white wall with 3 Satoshi's female shirts, and we shot it. It was like not high production at all, but it captured what we wanted to show, which is we're a new generation of generosity. We actually deeply love each other as men and women. And there has been things that have gotten in the way. Programming that actually gets in the way of us being there for each other. But in this new world, we are committed to making sure that equality will happen. So, men, I look at you because there has been 3 different types of men who have shown up in this campaign. There has been the typical misogynist guy who responded to a woman who put a Satoshi's female Instagram up or Facebook. We lacked only feminist claims in the crypto world. Dear girls, women, it's a fact. Resign yourself. In the crypto world, women do not exist. No need for that. Next, we have Vince Molinari, who stood up in front of the United Nations in New York last week and said, if we roll back layers of who we are and allow ourselves to be fully present, we will see the profoundly female attributes of this technology that can create a better sense of our shared humanity and a better planet. And lastly, this guy, who I think is pretty much the average guy, which is, it's not important to me if Satoshi is male or female. What I care about is that this new technology is inclusive from the beginning. And I see some nods, like, that is actually the important thing. It would be amazing if Satoshi is a woman. That would make me want to throw parades in the street. But the truth is that we are building a new system. And the main architects of this new system have to be the people who were left out of the current system. Now, I believe this because I believe that women, people of color, and people from emerging markets are going to be the most innovative in this work. Here are some examples of why I think this. In China, for the Me Too movement, it was getting censored all over the place, and all these women wanted to be part of it. And there was a letter that was written from a college student about a professor that was known to rape women at Peking University. And it immediately got taken down by all the social media channels until an anonymous person put it up on the Ethereum blockchain by doing one transaction and stamping it in that transaction. What happened next is that another woman went in and did a transaction so she could be proud of that woman who was making sure that censorship wouldn't happen. And then a bunch of transactions happened where women all over the world who are normally censored were getting a chance to talk about how we can make sure our voice is heard through this new technology. I can say that it probably is the people who are voiceless who would be able to figure this out and figure out this innovative way to use this technology. Next is the Women's March. I think that the Women's March was one of the largest movements that was decentralized that we've ever really seen. It represented 5 million people from 75 countries. And it's now taking cryptocurrency to fund its organization so that it can help people all over the world. And lastly is Shios. Shios is the female node of EOS. And it is committed to ending the gender gap for women in finance, technology, and dedicated to educating and encouraging women to become developers and build the EOS platform. Now, I know all these women personally, and the reason they want to be block producers is so they can take that money and they can put it into other women. And the truth is, I see this everywhere. With Mama Hope, once a woman in our community has access to capital, they immediately give it back to all the women around them. So I believe that women are the key to global prosperity. And we, all of us, have to ensure that happens. So, in order to do that, I would like you guys all to close your eyes once more. Close your eyes. We're almost finished. And I want you to think about the world 10 years from now. Right now, the World Economic Forum says it's going to take 217 years for us to get to parity. That is impossible. So I want us to think about how we can make this happen sooner. So everyone close your eyes and think 10 years from now in the most utopian way possible. What does the world look like? How have we all worked together to create more equality? What is it like for your children or your nieces or your grandchildren? And how did you help make that happen? What did you do in your career to ensure that this equality was possible? And most importantly, what can you start doing today? What are the action items that you can take right now? You can open your eyes. One of my favorite quotes is by Chimamanda Adichie, who is a Nigerian writer, who said we should all be feminists. And the way that she defines feminist is a man or a woman who says, yes, there is a problem with gender as it is today, and we must fix it, and we must do better. All of us men and women must do better. The whole world is depending on us. I've pretty much completely lost faith in the generations above us. And I really believe that we have the power to really shift all the systems. So, if you are a man in this room, and if you are an investor in this room specifically, I want you to take your time at this conference looking for women and people of color and people from emerging markets to invest in. I believe you will find the most inspiration from their ideas. And if you are a woman in this room, this is our time. We have come here at this particular time to be the women that change the world. And we might have been hiding in the shadows, we might have been scared, but it is time for us to come out unapologetically and say that this is our world too. And we want to make sure that it benefits everyone. So please join me at satoshiisfemale.com, get a shirt, spread the word, and let's build this world together.